Humanity over the years has worshipped a ton of different deities, from the multiple gods of Olympia to the multiple gods of the Norse religion to the single deity of God. Religion has always been something many people have looked to for answers and guidance. However, in the year of 2215, a new one would go on to be set up that would go on to worship a divine alien species who had left behind artifacts known as markers. With these artifacts, this religion would go on to develop their beliefs that humans were created by this alien species, and worshipping them would allow humanity to be reunified after death within heaven, thanks to the markers. However, it's safe to say that this belief was completely misunderstood, and many who would go on to believe it would be heavily indoctrinated by these markers and be forced to start the downfall of humanity and the unification of their colonies. But how did this religion come about? What exactly do they worship? How do they go about doing it? Who is their leader, and what eventually happened to them? Well, in today's video, we explore the religion known as Unitology and what makes it so unique. This is the story behind the 26th century religion known as the Church of Unitology. But before we explore that, have you ever been in the middle of battling a hive mind and thought to yourself, you know, I'm quite parched right now. I could really do with a nice healing drink to keep me going for this long, grueling battle. Yes? Well, luckily, G Fuel have just released their latest flavor, the Dead Space Plasma Energy, which is a really cool strawberry candy flavor. G Fuel were kind enough to send me this product, and I got to say it's really awesome and tasty, with a fantastic piece of artwork on the tub and the collector's edition featuring a unique glow-in-the-dark shaker and art box. And on top of that, if you were to use my code WISEFISHYT or link in the description below, you can get 20% off of this new flavor that will not only massively help this channel out as it shows that you want to support it, but it will also allow you to get this amazing flavor as well as many others with a decent discount. So use code WISEFISHYT on checkout or visit my link in the description below to get yourself this Dead Space flavor or any other flavor you fancy. A special thanks to G Fuel for this Dead Space promotion and the unique code. And with all that said, let's get back into exploring the religion of the Church of Unitology. Our story begins with the man known as Michael Altman. Not much is known about Altman's early life. However, what is known is that he is of varied ancestry, with his mother being Native American and his father being of German descent. At some point, he became a very proud geophysicist and moved to the Chicxulub crater with his girlfriend Ada, who was an anthropologist. The year was 2214 at this point of his move to the crater, and when he was there, Altman would go on to team up with other researchers and would go on to find that within the asteroid impact crater off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, there would be a mysterious artifact housed there, which would be later on revealed to be the Black Marker. Just before this discovery, however, Altman would suffer from regular nightmares and headaches for weeks on end. But one day, as he went on to do a routine scan of the area, he would go on to detect a strange gravitational anomaly within the heart of the crater, and getting closer to it, he would realize that it was emitting a strong, powerful signal. Altman knew this was revolutionary. This could be something huge for them to progress humanity further, and he had to tell people of this discovery. Altman tried to reveal everything to the general public, but before he could, he would be contacted by an individual from a company known as Dregercorp, a covert company who would regularly move into areas illegally to continue what business they were up to. For a while, this contact was pressuring Altman to get into work with Dregercorp. However, that contact suddenly and mysteriously died without any warning. Not long after this event, Altman would go on to then find through video evidence that Dregercorp were attempting to access this mysterious and powerful signal Altman had discovered, and were trying to examine it fully. In this attempt to gain access to the signal, 2 divers were sent down into the flooded crater, but as they ventured down and got closer to it, both of the divers were killed in the process, with one of them turning completely insane before meeting their end. Seeing all of this happen before his very eyes, Altman tried to blow the whistle and once again take all of the information to the general public about how this dodgy corporation was trying to find this signal and use it for themselves. His girlfriend Ada, however, was heavily opposed to this idea, believing it would only bring about more trouble for him and his work, and she was right. As soon after all of this, Altman was taken into custody by government officials who were also working for Dregercorp. The The government officers were majorly impressed by Altman's detective skills, working out everything that Dredger Corp were doing in their operation. And because of this, the government officers offered Altman an opportunity to help them find this powerful signal that they had pinpointed to an artifact down within the crater. If he refused to help them in their task, however, he would be killed and forever silenced. With not much choice in the matter, Altman would agree to help the government agents and Dredger Corp. Being brought onto a covert floating science station along with many colleagues and his girlfriend Ada, Altman would find friendship with a submarine pilot named Hendrix, and with his assistance would order to make a dive to retrieve this artifact that was sending out this powerful signal. But the deeper they got, the worse it got for Hendrix, who started to quickly lose his mind. And the more paranoid he got, the more he turned on Altman, eventually leading him to attack him, forcing Altman into a situation where he had to subdue him. But the weirdest thing of all was that Altman was not affected in the slightest by this signal. It had not driven him mad like all of the others who had lost their lives. The only side effect Altman suffered was a hallucination of Ada's mother, who would go on to explain to him what the artifact actually was. It was named the Black Marker. Altman was eventually successful after a few dives to bring back the artifact as well as a sample of strange fleshy tissue that he had found within the water, and they would go on to store it on board the station. Now that this artifact was on board and people could see it all in its glory, the crew of the station also started to experience the power of its signal, as they would all be affected by it. But the signal was so powerful and the artifact was so striking that the crew all started to be influenced by it and would start worshipping it. And on top of that, would see that Altman was completely unaffected by its signal and was able to be in the same room with it without suffering any side effects. Observing this, the influenced crews would start to believe that Altman was an unwilling prophet who was part of the key to the artifact's power. Altman had also started noticing a change with the crew on the station, noticing that half of them had become full believers in this artifact, whereas the other half were complete non-believers. And because of that, it was creating a lot of tension and eventually led to violent outbursts between two groups, which went on to see multiple murders take place. Altman came to his senses during this point and knew that this signal was far too dangerous and powerful, and knew that the government was wanting to use it for their own benefit. He could not let this happen, as it would only bring about mass violence all over the planet, utilizing it as a weapon. And with that, he escaped the ocean facility and made a public announcement about this deadly marker within Washington, D.C. It didn't take long before the government once again would go on to capture Altman and would witness the next process of the marker's signal, as he would come face to face with an insane scientist injecting the fleshy tissue sample Altman had found into him, turning him into a necromorph. It would go on to venture throughout all of the station, destroying the facility and killing all of the staff. Luckily for Altman, he was helped to escape the facility through the help of other survivors desperately trying to survive the horrifying monsters. As he escaped the facility, reaching the shores near the Chicxulub crater, he suddenly realized there was a way to stop the marker and save the world. With this plan in mind, Altman fought his way back into the facility and would go on to replicate the marker's genetic code and signal in an attempt to calm it and its effects on the world around it. Luckily for Altman, his plan worked, as the black marker was silenced, accepting the code and signal and leaving the facility in peace from the powerful signal being put out there. But that was not enough. Altman knew he had to do a bit more to make sure this would never happen again, and with that, he would go on to destroy the remaining parts of the facility and sink it, as well as the marker, back into the flooded crater, so that the marker could never be found ever again. For Altman, he thought it was all over and he could go back to his normal life. However, he was wrong, as two high-ranking men within the military who were overseeing this project captured him and would go on to quickly kill him by placing him into a sealed area with a spoon alongside a necromorph that consisted of 3 corpses of the soldiers. With his death, Michael Altman became a martyr for many out within the country and world, and because of that, it would help form the foundation for the Church of Unitology, where Altman himself would become the Messiah, with even the 2 soldiers that had killed him coming to believe it to be so, thanks to the marker's overall influence. But just before that, with Altman now out of the picture, the 2 men would go on to copy the code he had used to calm the marker, and would go on to plan on using it as a blueprint to create create a secondary marker that was identical to the original black marker. Michael Altman had now died on the 15th of March 2215, but his death wasn't in vain to many people, as they would go on to form the massive new religion known as the Church of Unitology, with Altman being their leader, who was once the messenger sent by their god, being the black marker. It was now their task to spread the word of these markers and to try and get the general population to believe within their own new deity. It was now the age of Unitology, with Altman's true goal being left in the dirt. Everything he tried to expose had now been somewhat flipped and was now used to promote the worship of this deadly marker. Almost on its conception, the church began its process of changing the true message behind what Altman was trying to do, and would go on to display their supposed true message on Titan Station, one of their biggest churches out within the human colonies. Hooked up to a speaker system, people who wanted to learn more about the church would hear this, as it would speak its new history, stating,
"In 2214, a geophysicist named Michael Altman made a discovery that would change history. Buried at the impact site of a crater near the Yucatan Peninsula, he uncovered a divine alien presence, the marker. The marker spoke to Altman and revealed a plan that would unify mankind and lead them to a bright new future." By the millions, people flocked to hear more about the marker and the unity it promised after Michael Altman told the world of his profound discovery. But there were those who felt threatened by Altman's message. On March 15, 2215, Altman was assassinated and thus became the first martyr for the church. Altman's followers mourned his death but found divine solace in his message of unity. They would not allow the truth to be silenced and form the Church of Unitology to bring his teachings to the world. Today, the Church of Unitology can be found everywhere in the known universe. Its message is just as strong and relevant today as it was when Altman first revealed it. Billions of believers can be found across all social, economic, and cultural groups, and more are joining every day. Growing from a small group of devout miners on Titan, the Titan Station Church of Unitology has flourished into a hub of Unitology worship, practice, and learning. It boasts one of the largest and most beautiful churches in the Sol system, and is often the site of the annual Unitology Enigma Symposium. As we await glorious convergence, it is important to continue to nurture our relationship with the marker and understand the future it is preparing for us. The marker calls to all of us. It is our duty to approach it with an open heart and open mind.
This new religion became multi-tiered in hierarchy, where at the top were three masked individuals that would be known as the Enigmas, who consisted of the church founders. The lowest ranking individuals would be known as the Initiates, who would be the bulk of the regular believers, and above them would be three other roles known as the Vested, the Overseers, and the Paragons. The way to rank up within this religion is really simple. The larger the contribution you donate into the church itself, the more reputation you get, allowing you to rank up. So if you were a rich, influential businessman or woman, the chance of you becoming a paragon, overseer, or vested is much more likely than some of the more everyday members of their community. With so many people turning to this new religion, there were many from different walks of life, which helped them to get their financing and influence to become bigger and bolder and more appealing to those that might be a bit skeptical about them at the beginning. It is said that the church possesses considerable political and economic influence at this point in human history. However, despite that, they are still regarded as massively dangerous by EarthGov and heavily persecuted if they are found out to be one. Despite that, many Unitologists have found themselves within extremely high-ranking roles in game-changing corporations, like that of the Concordant Extraction Corporation, who houses many officers who are proud Unitologists, like that of Captain Mateus of the USG Ishimura. But why would you join the church? What is it that they truly believe in? then? Well, for the Church of Unitology, they believe that the artifacts known as the markers, most notably the black marker, is but a symbol of God, and the inscriptions on these artifacts are ancient writings that are yet to be discovered. The hope for Unitologists is that these writings on the markers are messages that will reveal the true origin and meaning of human life. The Unitologists believe that the marker contains inside it a code that holds the key to eternal life through rebirth after death, and brings about a physically real paradise through unification that will supposedly save mankind from its destructive materialistic course. This whole belief system means that everything they do and see on a daily basis is based around the image of the holy marker. Their church's architecture, as seen within Titan's station, has the marker symbol everywhere you look, with grand pillars and alien writing all over the walls to help their congregation remember what their great journey is all about. That journey being that one day this holy marker will unify them together and join them in heaven. This is also shown through their public actions, as the church will go on to promote positive and appealing messages of social harmony and unity, with even some of the members of the church showing real environmental concerns, with quite a few members objecting to things such as planet cracking and the overall destructive course that the Earth government have started to take up with their hunt for a limitless power source. This isn't everyone, as mentioned earlier. Many are involved in all types of roles within society, with many high-ranking individuals being a part of these planet crack operations to make sure that these things are done in the name of Unitology and the marker's overall goal of bringing people together. Death is one of the core focuses for this religion, as they are all about the end product and how they can get to the good ending of their journey. The Unitologist way of thinking is that all living beings will intertwine in the manner of the two prongs of the marker to eventually become one. This whole process is said to be called the convergence, and when this day comes about, it will finally bring about the end of humanity's selfish materialistic ways and make them into much higher beings that are all working as one, with no problems to ever be had ever again. Similar to the Christian religion, it is believed by members of the church that when the day does come, the believers will be saved and converge together, and the non-believers will be forsaken, unless their bodies come into the possession of the church. Anyone who is a non-believer, however, is seen to the church members as quite simply infidels, and they either need to be converted to their way of thinking or to be shut down. Dr. Mercer, for example, believed that those who had been turned into necromorphs had been saved, and when witnessing this, believed that he had now a missionary duty to murder and prepare those non-believing infidels for the infection process, to bring about more bodies to allow them to trigger this convergence event. To them, they weren't aware that the convergence was going to kill everyone in the process and not reward them with anything. It would only create a brethren moon. But the church believed that these convergence events were set up to attain spiritual oneness with paradise. This event would allow all human souls to become one entity and would be there within the afterlife, free from individuality. Because of death being such a grand process for the people of the church, they will always celebrate the passing of a loved one, and the ceremony that they hold will hope that they will one day join them, rather than spending time mourning them. With this, any member who dies will not be allowed to be buried or cremated, as those are seen as completely against the church's will. Instead, the bodies of the dead on board a space station, for example, will be preserved and stored away completely untouched, as it will be seen as a vessel for the members of the convergence. In terms of their practicing of religion, the Unitologists aren't too dissimilar to other religions and border on the side of a cult more than anything. The church members will actively seek out non-Unitologists on their travels and will desperately try to convert them to their overall goal and message. They are so open and unashamed about their beliefs, even if they encounter many non-believers who will openly laugh and shame them, thinking their religion is completely bizarre and insane, especially the part of the religion that states an intelligent alien species was the designer of humanity as a whole. It's quite easy to spot a Unitologist, however, as they will proudly put on their marker pendants or models at work desks, which they buy from the church itself and proudly show off as a social statement that they are massively openly proud of their beliefs. Not only do they seek out non-believers to preach to them personally, but they will also distribute literature in public areas to try and spread it further that way. EarthGov, however, was against the way these religious fanatics were doing this, and to restrict it on Titan's station, put in a law that would make it so the Unitologists had to have a special permit before they could distribute anything. But on top of that, the EarthGov would also go on to speak regularly to the press, stating that they felt this religion was of great threat to public order. The Unitologists would take great offense to these remarks by EarthGov, but they would also seem to despise most people who are seen as strong-willed and critical-minded, aka people that weren't affected as much by the market influence, and because of this distaste for those people, would conduct strict assessments to see if they would be able to gain access into their church. What this indoctrination process is to gain access to the church is widely unknown, but if anyone were to question their motives during this assessment, they would not be able to be a member of the church and would most likely become a body for their convergence end goal. If they are to join the religion and then somehow start questioning what is going on within it, they would be brought to one side and forced to undergo psychologically damaging soul cleansing to make sure they are back on the correct path and not going to question it anymore. Once in the church, many, if not all of the members would engage within meditation routines where they would lock their arms in a cross with their hands bent inward to give the appearance of the marker. When they do this process, the church members would surround themselves with marker replicas, candles and mats, leading to what is a quiet and reverent process as they focus their minds on the teachings of the church and their end goals. It is said, but not very well documented, that the church had gone on to fully fund and create mausoleum ships, huge vessels that would carry stasis storage tubes to help transport the bodies of the church's members. There is no actual physical evidence that these ships actually exist. However, within a book known as The False Messiah, which is banned from all major libraries on Earth and its colonies, there was a report that stated that the church's shipyard was infiltrated and one of the vessels was seen. The main purpose of these stasis body transporters was to get the bodies away from their enemies, sending them way out into deep uncharted space in the hope that the brethren would make the bodies whole again. With that all said, the Unitologists have one main enemy who they seem to regard as their main opponent in everything, and that is EarthGov, who they have been in conflict with ever since they were first set up, still blaming them for murdering their messiah and their once leader, Michael Altman. Whilst there are many Unitologist high-ups within all different corporations and in places of power, the church is constantly fighting every chance they can get to gain more power to one day overthrow EarthGov. But thanks to the actions took in place by EarthGov, they would put a lot of thoughts in non-Unitologist minds that this group was just a mad group of cultists, labeling them as carpetbaggers and insurrectionists within the press. This is where the majority of their battles took place at the beginning, as an information war took place within the media. However, that's not to say that some armed conflicts didn't happen. And with Unitologists holding such strong views about those who don't believe in their God, it's most likely they took some violent action against those they believed to be as the oppressors, as if they did kill people in their battles, that will mean more bodies for their God, the Black Marker, ready for their convergence. This all came to a head within the EarthGov-run civilian space station named Titan Station, where within the year 2511, members of the church deliberately triggered the necromorph infestation that would go on to wipe out almost all of the inhabitants of this station, as documented by Kerry Norton, a new inductee to the religion who claims she had been invited to a unique rebirth ceremony, and it being a part of a special secret mission for the church. This only fueled the hate for Unitology even more, as people would go on to see how far they were willing to go to spread their church's end goal. In the years before, on the USG Ishimura ship, the church would also secretly take hold of the red marker once created and stored on the colony of Aegis 7, which would be one of the first infestations since the black marker was found a few hundred years ago. This would go on to change the mindset of even some of the most loyal members of the church, such as marker expert Terence Kine, who would see that the actions of the infection affection did not correspond with the teachings of Unitology, and now saw how unethical this whole process was, dropping his religion and endlessly stating that the church had been mistaken and what it believed was ultimately a lie. Others, however, were even more inspired by the marker and church, like Dr. Mercer, for example, as mentioned before, who would go on to create a new form of human necromorph that would be able to keep regenerating and come back from the dead to kill any in its way, to further the infection process and create more bodies for the convergence. His other goal was to take frozen necromorphs from the Ishimura and release them on Earth to end mankind and create easily enough bodies to once again trigger the event. With all of this happening and with the Titan station being destroyed by ex-ship engineer Isaac Clarke, this would only go on to fuel the church further, forcing them to double their efforts to spread their message all throughout the stars and to take action against their brutal oppressors of the Earth government. This was shown through one group of Unitologists that would become heavily militarized and started attacking EarthGov forces every chance they could get. This group would label themselves as the Circle, who would use their financial gain and political connections to commit acts of terrorism wherever a marker test lab may be located on any given colony. Their goal was simple, and that was to send their message about Unitology and the convergence by force. But their one downside was that most of their troops were simple churchgoers who had some, but most likely very minimal combat experience. EarthGov fought back hard with the help of Isaac Clarke, who also was sent out to stop their plans of universal convergence, and with that goal, Isaac was able to destroy the Brethren moon that was soon going to take over Tau Volantis, and most likely travel onto Earth to destroy that as well. With the moon destroyed, the Circle had now become extremely low in numbers, but that only fueled their religion more, and their actions would become even more extreme, helping them form into a new Unitologist cult. These cult members would go on to cut off their hands and replace them with mechanical parts to make them look more like necromorphs, as they would go on to view the Brethren moons as their new god. Their once leader of the Circle, Jacob Danik, who had been killed when the Tau Volantis moon awoke, had now become their new idol, as they would label him as their saint. Now under the new leadership of their anonymous leader, they would go on to lead the cult to do the moon's bidding and do a regular ritual where they would cut the hands off the unwilling as well as the willing as well. But once again, this cult was shut down by Isaac Clarke and John Carver, who would go on to kill their leader, forcing the Brethren moons to leave the area as they could see the cult had no further purpose. To this day in 2514, the Church of Unitology has ultimately gone very quiet. Most of its strongholds have been destroyed, with many of their passionate leaders being killed by the necromorphs or by Isaac Clarke and EarthGov. That isn't to say that there aren't any more out there within the universe, however, as their heavily indoctrinated selves still believe that they need to do the bidding of the markers and the moons, and will maybe make an appearance to spread the convergence event once again. But with that said, the moons have made their new plans and have taken to Earth, with it looking like no one will be surviving this event, and there will be nothing left but dead space. Maybe some colonies will live on outside of this, but the chances of Unitologists being a part of these colonies are extremely high, and it's more likely than not that they will continue to find a way to help the marker and the Brethren moons complete their convergence plans and allow them to be unified together in the spiritual plane, wherever that may be. The future of humankind is a story yet to be told. However, it's clear that Unitology is one of the most dangerous organizations within the universe, and without them, maybe humanity wouldn't have been so affected by the markers and the necromorphs. However, that marker signal was so powerful that it was impossible that there weren't going to be loyal workers for it who would believe everything they were doing was for the greater goal of becoming one in heaven. Will we ever see them back, or is the future of the universe coming to an end? We will have to wait and see. But for now, this has been the story of the Church of Unitology from Dead Space. I want to say a big thank you for watching this video, and a huge thank you to my patrons for allowing me to make them on a regular basis, including my small fishes, my big fishes, Christopher, Last Persona User, Arto Krem, Greg, and Anthony, my YouTube channel Wise Ones, Fiery Italian, Ica the Wolf, and Sith Lord 906, my sharks Wow Such Gaming, Jason X117, Breadbeard, and Ronda C, and my Megalodons, Sinus, Hazy Thoughts, and Chernobyl Stalker. But that is all for now. Thank you for watching again, and if you want more lore videos, check out my playlists below. below. Use my G Fuel link and code WiseFishYT for up to 20% off of the new Dead Space flavor and up to 30% off of all your other orders. And please do like, comment, and subscribe to help get these videos out there. And with all of that said, I shall see you all in the next one. Cheers.